Telecom Research at JPMorgan. Ankur, good to have you back on the program. Thank you very much. It's been a while, Prashant, this side. So we'll talk about both telecom and IT services, but telecom first. Your thoughts on the announcement that Jio is launching an unlimited data and voice fiber plan for new customers from the 30th of March. Is this fresh, new aggression? How would you read into this, and what are the implications for, the one name in the telecom, the standalone telecom space, Bharti, which everyone has hopes pinned on? Go on.
Hi, Prashant. Thank you for having us. So I think, we've definitely seen continued signs of aggression in the market for telecom this year. We've seen this, with the new capex cycle for the industry with 5G. We saw some, plans and counter plans a couple of weeks ago on the postpaid side, and it seems like we'll probably see similar level of aggression on the fiber side as well, just in time when expectation of viewership is likely to rise because of IPL in the coming month.
So what about the stocks itself? I know you don't want to comment on individual stocks in the telecom space, but do you reckon that with the kind of aggression that you spoke about, is there a lot more upside? Because you are underweight on names like Bharti Airtel. So what seems to be the concern here?
So I think across the industry, what we are definitely witnessing this year is because of three factors. One, because of the 5G capex cycle. Two, because of incremental competition. As a result of partly the capex cycle, as a result of focusing on trying to acquire more customers, and three, delays in any kind of tariff increases, the ROIC for the industry will definitely get impacted. So we are quite cautious on the telecom space in India across the board. But the main reason being, increase in capex, which probably will not see a return anytime soon, and a likely deflation in the premium end of the market. Because we think one of the players is very keen on changing its strategy and focusing on premium customers. We're seeing aggression, the example that we just discussed a few moments ago. And we think that will only increase. I think another source of aggression, which is probably to an extent underappreciated, is the unmetered 5G plans. These are effectively free 5G plans, so above a certain ARPU, people are getting 5G consumption as much as they want. So it significantly deflates data pricing in this environment.
All right. Hi, Ankur. Talking about tariff hikes, when will the prepaid tariff hike come about? Will it be in 2023? Or do you expect it to come post the general election, say sometime in the middle of 2024? Your estimates?
Sure, thank you. So I think, what we've said is we do not expect any tariff increases in the near term. Till there are elections, we wouldn't expect any tariff increases. We think what we also built in our numbers is the earliest possible tariff increase is probably the end of CY24. We've historically seen tariff increases taking place at the end of calendar years. So most likely it will happen at the end of CY24, given there are elections in the coming period.
Okay, so that's telecom. Let's move on to IT services, Ankur. You still stay underweight the space, but the latest news flow there has been all the banking worries, right? The collapse of SVB, you put out a note post that. We are seeing more worries about, and actually people are wondering whether they need to worry about more banks, especially in Europe, etc. now. What are the implications for spending from that space, BFSI space, because it's a very large contributor for IT services revenues?
Absolutely. I think, BFSI, as you know, is about 40% of industry's revenues. It is the biggest spender on technology across all enterprises all over the world. So it's a very key part of revenues for the industry. And we think, given the a few banking turmoil examples we've seen on both sides of the Atlantic, we think the first way this will potentially play out will there be probably a slowdown in any kind of spending on existing budgets. We've already actually heard some of this before the recent crisis began, that revenue conversion had begun to slow down, spending, or deal ramp-ups were beginning to slow down. We think that will only continue, which will probably impact the growth rate for the next 1 or 2 quarters. The second thing which also definitely happens a lot in such periods is there is uncertainty and spending goes into a bit of a freeze. As a result, incremental deal signings, sales cycles take a lot longer, and deals take a lot longer to close, which will probably impact growth more like 3 to 4 quarters, maybe even a year out. So those are the two direct factors we see which will impact the industry. The second factor is, or let's say the third factor is any kind of second order implication of the banking industry getting a lot more cautious, which might impact related sectors, and tech spending might get impacted in those related sectors of the economy. The commercial real estate sector, for example, is coming into the news right now, but there'll be many other sectors which might also get impacted.
So there's also this narrative, right, that chat GPT and other forms of, say, AI programming could sort of could blow up and then maybe, affect pricing as well until these tech companies reorient themselves. What's the impact that this could have on the Indian IT sector, you think?
No, thank you for the question. I think it's very interesting. This is a year where we're seeing a lot of very significant changes. The banking crisis is one. Chat GPT is another very fundamental factor, which I think could impact the industry for multiple years and not just this year. So what we are seeing is really, we keep seeing generative AI come and create a very significant source of disruption. There are both positives and negatives from here. The positives is there is a significant increase in productivity of existing talent. It widens the pool of available talent for these companies very significantly. This also drives probably much better quality of management. However, the challenges are whenever we've seen a significant increase in productivity over the last 10 years or so, it has resulted in pricing pressure. The IT services industry is a B2B industry which is extremely fragmented, where bargaining power is largely with the clients, and any kind of productivity increases typically don't stay with the vendors. And we see as a result of this, there'll be a significant amount of potential pricing pressure going forward, which could deflate the growth for the industry over the next 2 to 3 years, and definitely pricing as well. So it probably could drive an element of margin and pricing concern going forward.
Okay. Ankur, I know you keep an eye on global internet company valuations. You may not cover Indian listed stocks like Paytm, etc. directly. I don't know if you do, but are there, looking at what's happening globally to internet company valuations, etc., the new age theme here in India, does it have room to breathe higher in terms of valuations, or, there is more compression ahead, just in terms of P multiples?
Sure. I think what's interesting about the India internet space, and thank you for the question, we covered all of TMT in India. And what we're seeing about Indian internet is definitely this is a year of what we call redemption. These are companies which probably got listed in 2021 at very different macro scenario where interest rates were very different. And the focus of all the companies were a lot different. They were all focusing on growth and expanding adjacencies. I think what's completely changed now is companies have focused significantly to profitability over growth. And there's a lot more focus on going to core areas, getting out of unrelated adjacencies, and getting the unit economics and metrics work. I think to that extent, many of the leading companies, including the company you mentioned, are showing that focus on growth, focus on profitability. The main challenge for many of these companies this year is that how do they maintain growth, a respectable amount of growth, while profit targets are also maintained. And to that extent, I think the one evolution we'll probably see in this industry is we move from revenue multiples or GMV multiples to profit-based multiples. So yeah, P for this industry is unheard of because very few actually make a profit. And hence, moving to the point where there is adjusted EBITDA profits and PE profits, I think that will be an evolution for the industry.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Ankur, thanks a lot for joining in. Very helpful to talk both about the telecom and the IT space. But let's get back to the markets now. Looks like it's going to be a decent opening, but very range-bound. Sudarshan and Mitesh are back with us. Sudarshan, what's the big call at 9:10?
Well, Dabur is a buying opportunity. It's a positional buy with a stop under 534.